I've had a lot of people contact me recently about using UV resin for the first time, and could I do a comprehensive video on how to use UV resin? So I thought, yes, I would. I've already done an ultimate guide to UV resin to be able to sell the products, but I thought I'd do an ultimate guide on how to use UV resin for beginners or for advanced people. This is going to help anybody. So what I'm going to go through today is the things that you're going to need and how you're going to need them. The first thing is you're going to need UV resin, obviously. Now, you might think that UV resin is all the same. Well, it isn't. I did a test a long time ago on UV resin because actually when I first started doing resin, I didn't like UV resin very much. I found it was always pain in the neck. It never cured properly or it warped. And most of that was because of the product I was using. So I shopped around and I found the J. Diction UV resin, and that's how I got into using J. Diction products in the first place, because I loved their UV resin so much. I would suggest getting a trio bundle like this because it comes with high viscosity, which is really useful for doming and things like that. A low viscosity, which is great for adding into items if you want a nice flat layer, and a general all-purpose UV resin as well, which is ideal for a lot of other different jobs. But you will find using all three of these makes a big difference, and it's actually cheaper to buy it like this as well. We have to think about price. If I've got any discount codes for anything, then obviously I will link them in the description below, so make use of the discount codes. And if you're a member of my group and a member of my Facebook group through YouTube, then you often get higher level discounts. I'm going to show you how these things work once we've gone through all the things that I think you will need. The other thing you'll need is some sort of UV light to cure them. Now, I've gone through lots of different UV lights. These are the battery operated ones. They're black lights, they're UV lights. This one is okay. It's quite expensive and it goes through batteries like nobody's business, which makes it even more expensive. And the same for these. But the only trouble is I've found with these is the UV lights inside them do tend to lose their strength very, very quickly and then stop curing things up. So I've avoided using torches for quite a while. I then went on to these little nail UV light curers, which are great if you just want to cure up one thing at a time and you don't mind waiting a little bit longer, and they are great. They work really well. But I now use the larger one like this, which is wonderful because it doesn't take batteries. You charge it up and it lasts quite a long time. You can use a 60 or a 180 second. I mostly cure things on 180 seconds. Or I use this one. You can use separately like this, or you can put it together like that with a little shelf in there, like so, which is really, really useful. And then you can cure things up from top to bottom and all around. Now, there are a couple of safety things I would say about using UV resin. Don't stare at the UV lights because it isn't good for your eyes. The other thing you'll need is items like this to make jewelry out of. These are open backed bezels. I like those. They come in loads of different patterns as well. I always have a lot of those. You've got like stained glass windows. There's quite a lot that I haven't got. You've got small ones. You can get closed back bezels for bracelets. All these things I've used in the past. Closed back bezels there. Let's do one of these while I'm doing it as well, so I can show you how that works. And again, I will link these in the description. You get loads for your money. They'll last a nice long time. There's a different type of bracelet that you can get. You can get rings. Another different type of bracelet. Cufflinks as well, which are always great sellers. Little small ones to make bracelets with. And there's my bag of open back bezels. So you can get lots of different things. You can also get rings as well. And I've shown it on a video, and I'll link that one at the end of this one on how to make rings. And they are brilliant sellers. You'll also need some damming tape. And I like the extra wide damming tape. It works so much easier than the narrow one. And the damming tape is to make sure that you don't have anything spilling out when you're using your UV resin. It is quite sticky, so be careful with it. You don't need it for these ones because they're closed back, but you will need it for these type of things. All you need to do is push that onto the damming tape like that, and then ensure that it's got a really nice adhesion all the way around by going around it with your finger like this. And then I like to take something round like this and go over it again, almost like a rolling pin, to make sure I've got a nice adhesion to the back of that. I will show you how to get this off without getting any sticky left on these items as well. So there we go. So there, that's that. Now, you could survive with just using the clear UV resin and maybe adding a little bit of mica powder or colour to it. Now, always use a translucent colour. If you use a completely opaque colour, what you're going to find is that it's not going to cure because the UV light cannot penetrate right the way through the UV resin to cure it up, and it does need UV light to cure it up. So I'm going to show you what I mean. Normally I wouldn't bother to cut these off here like this. I would just have them on the damming tape and then move the damming tape as I want it. But because I want to show you what will happen and how to use these products and get the best out of them, then that's why I'm cutting them up. So the first one I'm going to start with is this one. I'm going to be using the low viscosity UV resin for this. Let's move that out the way. Move that out the way. And what I'm going to do is mix a little bit up with some mica powder and mix a little bit up with some colour. So first of all, I'm going to put a little bit of my UV resin in there and then take some mica powder and pop it into that UV resin. Now, again, don't have too much. If you add too much of this mica powder, it isn't going to cure because it's just going to make it a really thick, solid colour. But you still get a really great result by adding a little bit. So look, I've added a little bit and that's quite a nice solid result. I can pour that in there now. Now I'm working in an area where there's no natural light, so it's not going to cure up. So what I can do is give that time to release any bubbles that I may have mixed into it. So regarding the clear one, I'm just going to pop a bit of resin into that. Always try and get in the habit as well of putting your tops back on your bottles so that you don't inadvertently cure whatever it is that's in that bottle. So I'm using a translucent colour here to drop in that, and I'm not going to put much in it. I'm only going to put 3 drops in it to start with, to see how well that works. And if it can add a bit more colour, then I'll add a bit more colour. But I think that's going to be enough. And now I can pour that in that mould or in that open back bezel. I'm not sure if you can see, but there's quite a few bubbles on the top of that one. And there's now quite a few bubbles coming up to the top of this one. And that's because we've left them for a couple of minutes for those bubbles to rise. All I'm going to do is go over that with a long neck lighter and get rid of those bubbles. And that should then make that really nice and crystal clear and help avoid you having any of those bubbles available. So now I'm going to cure those up. Normally I would cure up quite a few at once, but I want to show you how to do it. So to stop that, I was going to say to stop that making a mess and then I drop it. I did that, look, and then dropped it anyway. Put a little bit more in there to fill it up where it got it messed up. There we go. That's all nice and done now. Let's burst those bubbles off that. Let's see if we can do that again. It's because the tape stuck to me. So I'm going to pop that in there and that one in there like that. And now I'm going to turn that on for 3 minutes and let that cure. So that's now curing from the top and the bottom. So it's curing all the way through. Now, what I am going to show you as well at some point during this video is if your UV resin seems determined not to cure, it might be because it's oxidized. And that can happen without any warning. It can just happen. It doesn't mean the UV resin is finished, and it doesn't mean the batch that you're using is no good. But I'm going to show you how to get over that and cure the problem so that you've no longer got a sticky finished item and you can carry on using your products. So that's going to come up. I'm going to cure these while they're still in the pots because I'm not going to use that anymore. And then I can put those in something else later. And if you're curing up stuff while you want to carry on using resin, all I do is put a bit of cardboard in front of my UV light like that to enable me to carry on because the UV light is now not spilling out into the room. Now this next one I'm going to show you is a really simple technique, and it's one that I love doing, and it's also very popular again. So you can buy these little charms from anywhere and you get tons of them. So what I'm going to be using is this little bird charm in this one. And I'm quite safe to use this while that is curing because I've got my piece of cardboard over the front of it. So it's not going to cure up my resin. Now I love the coloured UV resins that you can get. You can get glitter coloured or you can get just plain coloured ones. And the great thing about the plain coloured ones, you can get them in the 30-gram bottles, or they now do them in the 100-gram bottles if you're using a lot of them. And I do use quite a lot, so I buy the 100-gram bottles, but you can buy the pack of 8 coloured UV resins. Now, these cure a lot darker than they would if you were to just use pigments and things like that in them and mix your own. I don't know how they've designed these or what they've done to be able to make this happen, but they have made these colours really lovely and dark. So this is the one without the glitter in it, and that's a blue. And I want to cure that up to start with, like that, without adding anything to it into this bezel. If I can get that on there without it sticking to my gloves. You see, that's why I normally work with a lot more pieces. It's so much easier. So I'm going to turn that on now for 3 minutes and let that cure up. And the next resin that I'm going to be using for this is the high viscosity one, because I want it to have a domed finish to it. So by using the high viscosity, it will have a much more domed finish to it. So I'm going to leave that to cure for a few more minutes, and then I can carry on for the next stage. Don't be tempted to do everything all in one level. UV resin heats up quite considerably when it's curing. So if you have it too deep, what will happen is it may warp or it may not cure at all. So do it in several different layers. UV resin is not suitable for doing large castings and things like that with. It is just not going to work. It would get far too hot and warp out of shape. It's ideal for things like this and jewelry. So that should be cured now enough, and I'm going to take that out of there and show you how I'm going to finish this one off. Now, I've seen a lot of people say, oh, cure on top of a mirror. So you've got a mirror and you cure down and then the light reflects back up. Please don't use that method unless you're using protective UV eyewear, because if not, it will bounce UV light all around your studio or wherever you're working. Now, to be able to put this little dove in, like I said, I'm using UV resin, high viscosity to start with. What I'm going to do is put a little bit on the back here first. Now, you might think, well, the UV resin is not going to shine through that and cure it, and you'd be absolutely right. But what you've got to take into account is the light that I'm using shines from the bottom and the top. And even if you haven't got one of those lights, you can always turn it over and shine it through. So I want that fairly central, like that, looking like it's flying up. Now I've got that on, I can now fill this with UV resin, and again, the high viscosity one, because that will dome up lovely. So it's got a blue background and then clear UV resin over the top. If you continue to press on the bottle as well, when you're filling it up and then lift the bottle out, you will not introduce lots of bubbles into it. If you do it in lots of little short bursts, you're more likely to introduce bubbles. So once again, I've got that in there. I'm just going to burn off any bubbles that have come to the top, like that, and then pop that in to cure. And these bits that I've already done here should be cured, so I can take those out and show you those in a second. So let's get that in there like that, and we'll let that cure up for about 4 minutes. So these have all cured now. I can take these out of my little pots. I keep all these bits because I add them into things and you never know when you're going to use them, and they're quite handy. This is the first one I did with the colour. Now, if you want to avoid any of this sticky attaching to your UV resin, then pull it off slowly. The slower you pull it off, the less likely you are of leaving any of that sticky behind. Now, I've got some where the overpour happened, where I knocked it off. All I need to do is pick that off like that, and now that's ready. So that's one side of it, and the other side like that. So look at that. That's lovely and translucent, but given a great color. You can see where I added the second color in. See, none of these have gone sticky, so I really wanted one to stay sticky. One will inevitably. Again, that's the one with the mica powder. That's fully cured because we didn't put far too much in, and that again has given a really pretty finish to it. Now, if you want to dome this afterwards, which you can, then you can dome it using the high viscosity. All you need to do, I find, with the high viscosity, it tends to stay where you put it unless you overload it. All you need to do is go around the edge first, like that, and then fill it in the middle. Okay? And then you can cure that up. I'm taking the top off that because I only need to cure one side, and this other one should be cured by now. So that should be cured now. It's had its 3 minutes, and then I can show you how well that has domed. Look at the height of the dome on that, and that has come out really, really pretty. You can dome both sides if you want, but I tend to only dome one side of a necklace. So let's have a look at this one. So this is the blue one, and the blue background is lovely and smooth. Now, that top has stayed a little bit sticky, which is brilliant because I want to show you how to get rid of that. And it's so easy. So it can stay sticky because of a phenomenon, I can never say the word, called oxygen inhibition, where oxygen prevents the resin surface from fully curing. And this means it stays tacky. And if you don't want it to stay tacky, then all you need to do is get yourself a little pot of water, and this is just tap water. And what I'm going to do is pop that in there like that, and then cure it from there for 3 minutes. That'll prevent the oxygen getting to the UV resin and allow that very surface area to cure properly and not be sticky anymore. Believe me, it really, really does work. It's brilliant. I was hoping that was going to happen. And you never know when it's going to happen. It just sometimes happens during the curing process. Now, there are other ways that you can do this as well to prevent the oxygen causing this problem, but I don't really like these methods. One of them is before you cure it up, if you spray everything very lightly with a silicone release spray, then that'll stop the oxygen getting to it. But it doesn't happen to me enough to warrant keep spraying that around my room, because you definitely don't want to be breathing that in, even though you're wearing a mask. So on the odd piece that I get it happen to me on, I use this method. So I think that should be done by now, because it is only the very surface that has remained sticky because of that oxygen inhibition. Look at that, perfectly cured now, not a bit of stickiness anywhere, and that piece is now no longer wasted, and you haven't got to worry about that. Look, I can even rub paper all over it, and it's not going to make a bit of difference to it because it's completely cured. So I'm so pleased I've been able to show you that trick. We talk about that an awful lot in my members group, and that trick gets suggested several times a week. I've taken this one out, I've took the damming tape off the back, and look how beautiful that is. My nice tight hole in the middle is all lovely and cured and slightly domed. That's the other side to it. Look at the sparkle in that as well. That's the UV resin with the glitter already in, and I think that looks absolutely beautiful. So these will be a couple of minutes before they're finished curing, and I can show you those. And while they're curing, I'm just going to quickly show you how to use these closed back bezels. Now, a lot of them come with this type of loop, so they don't actually lay flat. They're slightly raised when you do that, when you put them down. All you need to do is, I've found, is pop a lolly stick under one side of it, the side opposite the loop, and then that makes it perfectly level for you to be able to continue to use your products. Now, I'm going to be using a little bit of mica powder in the base of this one because I don't want this silver pattern to show through. And I want my mica powder to stick on there really, really well. So the first thing I'm going to do is add some of this gilding glue to it, which stays nice and tacky. Then your mica powder will stick to that perfectly for what you're trying to achieve. Make sure you spread it all over, and once it's dry, it will be lovely and sticky, and you're not going to have any problems with that. So that's nice and dry now. So what I'm going to do is add some mica powder to that, and you'll see how well that sticks on there as I put it on. Now that pattern will still be there, but it's not going to be a solid silver color. And all I'm using here is some really cheap makeup sponges to put this on with. Now I'm going to blend that all in like this using the one brush. Blow out any excess because I don't want that floating around in my resin. Get myself a charm. I think I might put a tree in this one. Yeah, got a tree there. Actually, I like that tree better. And for this one, I'm going to be using the standard UV resin that comes in the bundle. And this will give you a slight bit more dome than the thin. There we go. I'm quite happy with that placement. And now I'm just going to go over that. And as you can see, this is nice and level because we've put it on a lolly stick. These closed back bezels are actually designed for putting your own pre-made bezels on from a mold. But I like to use them like this as well. Burn off those bubbles. And I only need to cure this up from the top because I can only cure it up from the top because I can't move it through the actual metal itself. So that's now curing. That won't take long to cure, and then I can show you all the pieces. And at the end of this video, I'm also going to be giving you some absolutely vital information that is imperative for you to know when you're using UV resin. Well, that's all cured now, and I love the way that that has come out. It looks so much prettier with the mica powder brushed on the back. It doesn't make that pattern look out of place now, and it really sets off that tree, and it's so easy to do and gives you a great finish. These pieces are done now, and what I'm going to be doing is using the high viscosity resin to dome these with. So I love the way that that has come out, that feathered piece, and it'll look even nicer domed up. And again, I'm going to be using the high viscosity to dome. That always gives a beautiful dome. Right up to the edge, going all the way around. I use this to dome epoxy resin pieces as well that I've made with 1-to-1 resin because it works so well on doming. And what you make is only limited by your imagination. And don't ever worry about seeing some of the things that I've made using it and copying those ideas or adapting those ideas. I'm more than happy for you to do that. Please feel free, take them, use the ideas that I've done or the methods that I've shown and do it, because it gives me pleasure to know that I've helped and supported people. And similar in my members group, we all help each other out as well, show different things. If you get any bubbles stick to your UV resin, then just go in with something like this and dislodge them. Big thank you to everyone that got me a coffee last month. If you'd like to buy me coffee to say thank you for any of my videos or for the support and that I give, that it's really gratefully received. And the link for that is in the description below. They already look lovely domed. Quickly cure those up for 3 minutes and then we're done. So they're all nice and cured now, and look how pretty they are now they're domed. They've got a lovely thick dome on them, and that has come out lovely. So is the feathered one. That looks really pretty. And the normal swell. Both sides of that look lovely too. So in this ultimate guide to using UV resin, I've showed you how to use the resin, what it can be used for, how beautiful you can make things, and how quick and easy you can make them as well. Plus the tools that you will need. Now, the important thing that I'm going to be talking about now is PPE. Now, I've got a whole video on this. I link it in every single one of my videos at the bottom of the description. Gloves are a must. Work in a well-ventilated area, away from pets and things like that. And also use a mask. Now, I've got a really expensive mask that I use because I do resin an awful lot. You can get one like this that are fairly cheap, but they're full face masks, so it'll protect your whole face and it will protect your breathing as well with the filters on the side. Now, I'm not saying it's really cheap to start because you are going to have to outlay a little bit of money, but this stuff will last you for a long, long time. And there's so many different things that you can make with it. We've also seen a trick on how to cure your resin if it has that slight sticky surface to it. I can't recommend J. Diction UV resins enough. I love them. I never use anything else. But you try what you need to try, because you will find once you do try this, you won't want to go back to anything else. And I'm sure my members would agree with me in the comments below. Hope you've enjoyed this video and found it useful. Please leave me a comment if you have, or if you've got any questions as well, because the community that I've built up will help answer those questions. And if I see them, I will answer them. Be sure to check out the video that's coming up next. I think you'll really like that if you want to sell your UV resin products, because it will help you sell them. Boot that like button, hit that subscribe button, but most of all, enjoy your resin. Take care. Bye.